Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me. Today we are continuing our lesson in Jonah. We're doing Jonah chapter 3 today. So if you didn't watch the other videos, please go back and watch those before watching this one. And I'm going to be reading out of the New King James Version if you want to follow along. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it the message that I tell you. So Jonah arose and went to Nineveh, according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, a 3-day journey in extent, and Jonah began to enter the city on the first day's walk. Then he cried out and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So the people of Nineveh believed God, proclaimed a fast, and put on sackcloth, from the greatest to the least of them. Then word came to the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne and laid aside his robe, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published throughout Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mightily to God. Yes, let everyone turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who can tell if God will turn and relent and turn away from his fierce anger, so that we may not perish? Then God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God relented from the disaster that he had said he would bring upon them, and he did not do it. So here we see Jonah. Jonah decided the second time around to do what God had asked him to do in the first place, and that was to go to Nineveh to cry out what God had said and to do the thing that God had asked him to do. And so here we see God gave him the second chance. He seized the opportunity, did what God had asked him to do. And I want to point out, it says, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it the message that I tell you. If God tells you to proclaim the message, are you willing to do it? Guess what? God has asked you to proclaim the message. God has asked you to spread the good news of Jesus Christ. Are you doing that? Are you willing to do it? It says, and preach to it the message that I tell you. God has already told you the message to tell. Are you doing that? Are you spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ? And I also want to point out, it says, And Jonah began to enter the city on the first day's walk. Then he cried out and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. You know, if I was in Jonah's shoes, I would be afraid that these people might stone me. I would be afraid that these people, are they going to accept this message? You're telling someone that they're being wicked and evil. Are they going to take this message to heart? And we see in the next chapter why Jonah didn't want to do it, but I'm speaking as far as us. We so often, what if everything? What if this happens? What if this happens? And we need to just, there's a preacher and his name is Charles Stanley, and he's since passed away. And he used to say these words, obey God and leave the consequences to him. And what it means is we obey the thing that God is asking us to do, and we leave whatever consequences come from that to God. We leave it in his hands and just do the thing that he's asking us to do. And he used to also say that, I think that it was his grandfather that told him, he used to say, if God asks you to run through the wall, you run to the wall head on, and as soon as you get there, God will make an opening for you to go through. And I love this because it tells you that even if something looks impossible, like running through a wall, you're going to be able to do it, because if God asks you to do it, you're not working in your own strength. You're working in God's strength, and God will make the opening when the time is right. And this leads me to my next point. It says, Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, a 3-day journey in extent. Sometimes God asks us to go on a journey, and that journey may be long. Here we see Jonah went on a 3-day journey. How long sometimes does God put us through that journey? And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short, sometimes it's difficult. I feel like the journey to get to the spot that God has promised you sometimes is the hardest part, because we sometimes assume when God gives us a promise, it's going to be instant, it's going to be right away. Let's take being a speaker, for example. If God tells you he wants you to be a speaker, that doesn't mean that tomorrow you're going to go and be a speaker. God may need to refine you first and get you ready for what lies ahead. And so we need to keep in mind the fact that just because God has told you a promise, that doesn't mean it's going to happen right away. It doesn't mean that it's going to be instant. The Bible tells us to believe, blessed is she who has believed that the Lord would fulfill his promises to her. Believe that whatever God has told you, he's going to fulfill it, and he's going to see it through. Nobody can thwart what God has planned for you. And so you need to remember that just because something does not look like it's happening, that doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. It just means it hasn't happened yet. And I also want to point out, it says, "Let everyone turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands." I've talked about in a previous chapter that um, that when you are disobedient to God, when you disobey God, it doesn't only affect you, it affects those around you. Jonah, if he didn't go at all to Nineveh, that affects the Ninevites. It doesn't just affect Jonah's walk with God, it also affected the Ninevites' walk with God. So when God tells you to do something, remember the fact that you are not only affecting yourself and your walk with God, but you're also affecting the other person's walk with God. And I also want to say, it says, "Then God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God relented from the disaster that he had said he would bring upon them, and he did not do it." So God, this is God's character. He was merciful. We see this throughout the Bible. When someone turns from their evil ways and they turn back to God, God heals their land. God accepts them back. This is our God. Our God, his character is that he is merciful. And when you turn to him and you relent and you repent of your wicked ways, God, he sees you through, and he accepts you back. And so I want to point that out as well. And I want to end here with just saying, like I said, obey God, leave the consequences to him. If God is asking you to do something, do it. Don't worry about what's going to happen from the thing that you do. Just focus on God. Do what he's asked you to do. Know that he's got a purpose and a plan for it. And know that the consequences need to be left in his hands, because God knows exactly what he's doing, way better than any of us will ever know. So keep that in mind as well. And I also want you to remember the fact that the journey that you are on, it's gonna be difficult at times, but don't run the other direction like Jonah did in the beginning. Just go and do the thing God's asking you to do and trust the journey. Trust that he's got a reason, that, maybe he's refining you, or maybe you're just not ready yet, or maybe he wants you to get closer to him or learn his word more. There's so many different reasons that only God knows the reason that your journey is either long or short. And you have to trust the journey and trust God. Keep your eyes on God and trust God, no matter how long that journey is. And that's all that I have for today. And thank you guys so much for watching.